What if the most dangerous moment of a heat wave for your health happened before you were even born? That is not a rhetorical question anymore. It is a real finding from one of the largest reviews of scientific literature ever done on heat and human health, and we are going to walk through exactly what it found. But first, let's talk about heat itself, because most people underestimate just how dangerous it already is. In the summer of 2003, a heat wave rolled across Europe that pushed temperatures higher than anything measured in centuries. By the time it ended, an estimated 70,000 people had died because of it. Since then, heat waves have not become rare exceptions. They have become the new normal. Almost every one of the last 10 years ranks among the hottest ever recorded on the planet. Have you ever noticed how a heat wave feels worse at night in a city than during the day out in the countryside? That is not your imagination. Concrete, asphalt, and glass soak up heat all day and release it slowly after sunset. Scientists call it the urban heat island effect, and it means the people living in cities often never get a real chance to cool down. Your body is normally very good at handling heat. Sweat evaporates off your skin, blood vessels near the surface widen, and heat escapes before your core temperature climbs too far above its usual 37 degrees Celsius. But that cooling system has limits, and pregnancy pushes right up against them. During pregnancy, the amount of blood in your body increases substantially. The fetus is also generating its own metabolic heat around the clock, heat that has nowhere to go except through the mother's own body. So a pregnant body is essentially working overtime just to manage a normal day, before you even add a heat wave on top of it. Doctors have suspected for years that extreme heat might be connected to complications like early labor. What nobody had done until recently was pull every scattered study on the subject into one place and actually measure the size of that risk. That is exactly what a team of researchers set out to do, gathering evidence from 66 countries across 6 continents. Before we get to their numbers, let's ask another question. Why would a pregnant body even be vulnerable to heat in the first place, on a purely biological level? Part of the answer is hormonal. Pregnancy hormones relax blood vessels and change how the body regulates fluid, which can interfere with the fine-tuning needed to dump excess heat efficiently. Another part is mechanical. As the uterus grows, it can restrict blood flow and make the physical work of cooling down through sweat and circulation noticeably harder in the later months. And a third part may be inflammatory. Extreme heat triggers the release of what are called heat shock proteins, molecules meant to protect cells under stress, but which can also promote inflammation capable of nudging the body toward early labor. None of these mechanisms work in isolation. They stack on top of each other, which is part of why the effects of heat on pregnancy turned out to be so consistent across so many different countries and climates. Here is a fact that surprises most people. Heat does not just threaten the mother. It can reach the fetus directly too. A developing fetus cannot regulate its own temperature. It relies entirely on the mother's body to keep it within a safe range, which means maternal heat stress becomes fetal heat stress almost immediately. Have you ever wondered why farm animals are given shade structures and misting fans during summer, while pregnant women are often just told to drink more water? It is a fair question, and part of the reason this new research exists is that public health guidance has lagged years behind the actual biology. Now think about who actually works outside during the hottest hours of the day. Farm workers, construction crews, street vendors, delivery drivers. Many of them are women of reproductive age in every country on Earth. And air conditioning, the single most effective tool against heat stress, remains a luxury that most of the world's population still cannot afford or does not have access to. That gap matters enormously, because it means the health burden of a warming planet is not going to land evenly. It never does. Let's talk history for a second. Humans have survived hot climates for thousands of years, from the Sahara to the Arabian Peninsula. So why is heat suddenly such an urgent medical question now? The answer is speed. Human biology has not changed. What has changed is the frequency, intensity, and duration of extreme heat events, all accelerating faster than our bodies or our infrastructure can adapt. A heat wave that used to happen once every 20 years in a given region can now happen every few years instead, and it tends to last longer each time it does. There is also a detail meteorologists care about that most of us never learned in school. It is called wet bulb temperature, and it measures heat combined with humidity, not heat alone. High humidity stops sweat from evaporating properly, which is exactly the mechanism the body relies on to cool down. That is why a swampy 32 degrees can feel and act far more dangerous than a dry 38 degrees. So researchers were not just asking an academic question. They were trying to answer something with real, immediate stakes for millions of pregnancies happening on an increasingly hot planet right now. Roughly 140 million babies are born around the world every single year. Even a small percentage shift in risk, multiplied across a number that large, adds up to an enormous amount of real harm. To measure that harm properly, researchers could not just look at one country or one hospital. They needed a global picture, built from every relevant study they could find, going back years. That search turned up nearly 20,000 scientific records to sift through. After filtering out anything that did not meet strict quality standards, 198 studies made the final cut. Those 198 studies, taken together, span data from 66 countries and cover outcomes ranging from premature birth to stillbirth, birth defects, and complications like gestational diabetes. Now let's get concrete, because the numbers here are worth sitting with. For every single degree Celsius of extra heat exposure during pregnancy, the odds of a premature birth rose by 4%. During an actual heat wave, that risk jumped by 26%. Stillbirths climbed too, along with congenital anomalies, which rose by 48%, and gestational diabetes, which rose by 28% under high heat exposure. Low birth weight rose by 29% as well. Taken as a whole, the odds of any serious pregnancy complication rose by 25% during a heat wave, compared with periods of normal temperature. Timing mattered as much as intensity. Gestational diabetes risk climbed mostly around the second trimester. Hypertensive complications were more tied to heat exposure in the very first weeks after conception, when the placenta is still forming. One single study included in this review followed 56 million births in the United States alone, and estimated that extreme heat days were already responsible for about 25,000 babies being born earlier than they should have been, in just 1 year. In China, a separate analysis linked more than 4,600 preterm births every year directly to heat waves driven by human-caused climate change, with an economic cost projected above $1 billion annually. And here is the part that should make everyone uncomfortable. The odds of a heat-related premature birth were 1.61 in low-income countries, compared with just 1.11 in high-income countries. Yet only 3% of all 198 studies came from low-income countries in the first place. The places likely suffering the most from this problem are also the places science has studied the least. The researchers also graded how confident they were in each finding, using a method borrowed from international climate science panels. Premature birth ended up with the very highest confidence rating of the entire review. They were careful about the limits of their own evidence too. Almost all of the underlying studies were observational, meaning they show a strong statistical link, rather than proving the exact biological chain of cause and effect in every single case. Even so, out of 221 separate effect estimates pulled from the literature, almost every single one pointed in the same harmful direction. That kind of consistency is rare in medical research, and it is hard to explain away as coincidence. The researchers are now calling for pregnant women and newborns to be written explicitly into national climate adaptation plans, everything from early heat wave warnings to proper cooling in maternity wards. So the next time you hear a heat wave warning on the news, remember that somewhere behind that forecast is a much more personal story playing out, one that starts long before anyone is old enough to feel the heat for themselves. This video was based on a study published in Nature Medicine in 2025 by Lakhu and colleagues at the University of the Witwatersrand. If you found this useful, consider subscribing for more science explained clearly.